It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Wes Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Hanging in there.
Pretty good.
Groovy.
Okay. I hope everybody's doing okay out there. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Yeah, totally believable, wasn't it?
Yes.
We're not
I was
actors.
I don't think they can tell.
We're not actors, but we play them on TV. You know?
Oh, totally.
Oh, man. Well, I still don't have a lot going on over here. Well, I have too much going on over here. Haven't really done a lot, but I did happen to catch a new series that the History Channel's doing, and this is the second season, so actually, I guess I'm behind on it, but it's called The Mega Brands That Built America, and I'm not sure what all they've covered, but this one was about Disney, and they actually changed the whole episode. Instead of the mega brands, it was how Disney built America. So, of course, the title, I'm interested. I'm a Disney kid. I'm a Disney adult. You know, how did they build America? I'm thinking Davy Crockett and, you know, that kind of shit. How did Disney build America? They get pretty into it. I didn't realize, for one, what a freaking genius Kay Kamen was. Disney owes him everything that they have ever done and everything they will be to this man. I guess, you know, I came along later after all this stuff was in place, but I didn't realize until Disney that there wasn't like cartoon characters on cereal. I mean, when I finally came into the picture, there was cereals made just for kids, you know, not just the cartoon characters, but then you have, you know, like Tony the Tiger and the Snap Crackle Pop, you know, that was just something that was common for us. But if it hadn't been for Disney, or I should say Kay Kamen, we would have never have had that. But he was showing, I forget her name, but she was like the richest woman in America, and she owned Post cereals. And, you know, at the time this was happening, cereal was made for adults. It was boring to kids. It just, you know, during the Depression, it held you through, but that's all it did. It was, you know, it was an adult breakfast thing. Well, he had some kids come in and they were eating, you know, a bowl of cornflakes, and they're all like, nah, you know, trying to gag it down. Well, then same damn cereal, but he puts Mickey Mouse on the box and does like a little cartoon thing on the back of the box, and the kids were sitting there eating it, and, you know, woohoo, this is great, you know. So they figured out then, not only was it, you know, good for kids now because they'll eat things that are good for them. Well, we got way off track on that one, but, you know, they'll eat things that are good for them, but it's also a source of entertainment because the kids will sit there and read the box, you know. So that was a first. Disney was also the first to make merchandise for their movies. I didn't realize that. They were the ones who came up with the plan, and it actually happened with Snow White. One of their investors, they happened to send like prototypes of like the lunch boxes and that kind of thing. Lunch boxes also, Disney was first. they were sending over the prototypes of things, all the different things that they could put Mickey Mouse on. And they happened to get one of the prototypes of Snow White, and the investor's daughter like loved it. She played with it. And, when Kay came and talked to the guy, he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you weren't supposed to get that. That's a prototype for actually a movie." And the little girl was like, "Oh no, there's going to be a movie about her too." So it kind of clicked with him, and he was like, "Heck yeah, there's going to be a movie." And, her name's Snow White. You keep that. You tell your friends. Well, he went back to Walt, and, because at the time they were having a lot of trouble getting funded for Snow White. But for me, it's like totally weird for Disney to be struggling for money, especially the conglomerate that they are now. But they were struggling to get Snow White made, and Kay Kamen came in and he was like, "Hey, how about we put some toys out with Snow White and we start using money that we're getting from the merchandising for this to actually finish the film and get it put out. And then once it gets put out, we'll put a new round of toys out." And, because they were used to doing the movie than the merchandise. So Walt was kind of like, "Ooh, that's risky. Nobody knows who Snow White is, and we're expecting them to buy this to fund the movie." Well, they did. And it pretty much set an industry standard now that before the movie comes out, you have the merchandise for it. So that was also something that Disney put in place that pretty much everybody uses now. George Lucas came along and really tapped in on that with Star Wars. But once again, it was Disney who put their foot out there and took that risk first to see, is this going to pay off. They also talked about to get money back, because he was also wanting to do the theme park. At this point, they hadn't done the theme park, and that was like his ultimate dream goal. I want the characters to come alive and people to be able to interact and play with them and talk to them and stuff. So he started doing TV. First time Disney had gotten into TV, and I think it was with Davy Crockett. And they said that they ran into the problem with him that this is a TV series, but he was trying to film it and make it like a movie. There's so many budget cuts you have to make for TV that you get a little more padding with the movie. But he refused because he was like, when people see the Disney name, they've come to expect a certain quality that comes with that Disney name. So once again, he was like, we're losing our ass on TV, But also, right as Davy Crockett was coming out, they go over to, I think it was Britain. They kind of did like an investor dinner vacation kind of thing over there. Well, Kate Kamen wanted to leave early. He had to get back to his wife and kids and everything else. And unfortunately, his plane crashed into the side of a mountain, and that was the last time they ever saw him. So, of course, this sent Walt backwards. This was the guy who was making, funding and making everything happen for him. And now all of a sudden he's faced with a new hurdle of TV and has no idea, what do I do? How do, Kay would have brainstormed this and been like, here's what we do. So Walt was like, well, I'm going to do what I think he would do. And I think we need to start putting merchandise out on Davy Crockett, have Davy Crockett dress up and go meet people and talk to some kids and, get them really excited. And sure enough, it paid off for them, and by jumping that hurdle and successfully jumping that hurdle in TV, it kind of made everything come full circle. Now they dominated with the merchandising, they dominated in the movies, now they're dominating in TV, and the last thing he had to do was the theme park. And once he opened that up, it kind of merged all of those together. Oh, and also music. Disney was big into music at this time too, but it kind of merged all of those together and made Disney now what Disney is, you know. So it was very interesting. They should have called this the Kay Kamen story because a lot of this would not have happened without him. I mean, Walt is a genius, don't get me wrong. He put a lot of that footwork in too, but Kay was the kind of guy who just give me a minute to think. And he would bust out with, hey, let's put Mickey Mouse on a freaking lunchbox. You know, that's the first thing that kids will ever have for them. Because during the 30s, it was dad's old lunchbox that he used, or, you know, they didn't have anything for just them. It's whatever you had, you know. So once they started putting Mickey Mouse on there, boom, you know, new thing for kids. If it wouldn't have been for buying the licensing from Disney to make their greeting cards, Hallmark wouldn't be the company that they are today either. So, you know, Disney not only helped themselves, but a lot of smaller brands post cereal, you know, look at them now. It's a $3 billion industry just on kids cereals, just kids cereals. That was Disney, you know. So it's kind of cool. Like I said, there were so many things that, you know, I know that they do, like the toys before movies. That's just normal. You know, that's the norm. But I didn't realize that Disney was the one who did that. And, you know, like with TV and stuff, it was Disney who did that. And lunchboxes. Who the hell would have thought that Disney would have made the first kids lunchbox, you know? And it was interesting because as they're wrapping up this documentary, they're like, it's weird today that a lot of companies, they absolutely hate Disney, but they walk in their shoes every day. You know, it's the things, or the footprints of Disney every day. And it's true. If you want to have a successful movie, this is what you do. And it's just the recipe of what they do. You market, you get your toys out and merchandise, then you put your movie out, you know. So you can hate Disney, but Disney's the one who came up with that recipe for the successful launch of a movie, you know. So it was pretty cool because after you see what they've done and the strides they made, they kind of did help build, I guess, the commercialism part of America that we have today. So, yeah, like I said, it was so many things that Disney has their hand in that I had no idea they had their hand in. And anytime you hear about Disney, um, most of the documentaries, they start at the theme park and go forward. They never really give you that, you know, Disney was struggling and Disney almost went bankrupt. And a lot of them don't touch off into that too much. But this was a complete behind the scenes. This is how Disney became who they are, you know. So love them or hate them, it was very interesting. Like I said, you can make a lot of pulls to modern companies who are doing the same things now that Disney put in place for them. So, but I think that one was just released in the last couple of weeks, so it's still fairly new. It's the History Channel. I think it's A&E History Channel, but I think I watched it the other night, and it was going to play a couple of more times a night because it's still one of the newer ones. So I would definitely recommend watching it. If you like movies and, you know, even if you, like I said, even if you don't like Disney, you have to give them credit for the things that they've done. They've totally from the floor up made themselves, you know, and some very smart genius men were behind the making of that. So, and it wasn't just Walt. There was other guys holding him, you know.
Right.
So
Walt
like I
was
said,
just
it
a
was
face.
yeah. Well, and he was the ideals. He was
Right.
definitely, Mickey Mouse was his ideal, Snow White was his ideal,
Well,
but
then he
Kay
started out
Kamen
as
was
an
the one
animator, didn't
who I think he did. But Kay Kamen was the one who made that come to life for him.
he? Hmm.
You know, okay, you want to be successful with this, let's put him on this and let's do this. So, you know, Kay couldn't have done what Walt was doing, and Walt flat out said, "There's no way I can do what he's doing." So they needed each other, and it was just a great team. And if I made Phil watch this with me, and I said, "I'm going to feel horrible in saying this, but I'm kind of glad that Cayman died the way that he did." I know that sounds horrible. I'm sorry. I don't mean it exactly like that, but it was nice to see that this perfect team went out as a team, and that it wasn't a lot of backstabbing and, abrupt leaving, and, that it ended. It didn't end nice, but the friendship and the partnership didn't end on a bad note. It was a happy end. Or that just sounds weird too.
It
It wasn't
does.
a happy ending for Kay, but it wasn't a relationship that you read so much in Hollywood, where this one, got tired of being behind the scenes, so he left and went to go work at Nickelodeon or whatever. So it was nice to see that it wasn't that broke them
Or
up.
right, or
I'm
tried to
sad it
start
was
off on his
death.
own and do what Walt was doing,
Yep.
and then ended up penniless and broke and died in poverty or something.
Yep.
It was, yeah. I
And
mean,
he definitely went out on a high. No pun intended there. But
wow.
he
Wow.
he was at the height of his career. He was
He
making
was
several, successful business deals and stuff. People in that corner knew who he was. So he was definitely at the peak of his career. So, who knows what would have happened after that? Um, I don't know. I think their TV venture would have went a little bit more smoother, because he was also the one who would rein Walt in. You can't do that. We're losing money that way. We got to do it this way. So,
Right. Walt
but
needed
yeah,
a money
I
man,
yep,
and this guy was a genius at it,
yep,
apparently.
and just give him a minute, and he was like, "Okay, here's what we're gonna do." Let's let's put. I think the lunchbox still. He was at a park and watched this kid run by him, and she stopped to tie her shoe. Well, she put her lunchbox down, which was obvious too big for her. It was like her parents' lunchbox, but she had like painted it pink and put little fish and stuff on it, and that's when it clicked to him. Kids don't have anything like that for themselves. They can make things like that, but what if we put Mickey Mouse on there? Then it's just for them. It's not so he was that
Well,
kind
and we
of
get the money
guy.
for it.
Just,
That's, I mean,
yeah.
ultimately.
And at this point, they were trying to make Mickey Mouse like the brand. That was the face. That was, you know, which was another reason why he needed someone like Kay, because although they were doing all these merchandising deals and stuff, Walt was like, "You're going to keep this brand pure. I don't want Mickey Mouse on dildos. I don't want Mickey Mouse, on strippers or anything like that. We're going to keep this pure. This is the name. He is the name of what Disney stands for." So he was very selective. Like I said, Mickey Mouse was on everything, but he was very selective on what he would give Mickey Mouse to. And I will say today, as a digital creator, Disney is one of those brands you don't fuck around with. You don't even play with their font, or they will come after you hard, because they are very particular about what they put their name on,
Mm.
which surprises me with all these Etsy shops with knockoff Mickey Mouse. But hey, we won't go there. But, even today, they're very, it has to be quality, and, Mickey Mouse is never to be seen in a bad light, which was why that whole copyright deal was a big thing, because that opened Mickey Mouse up to a lot of shit,
Potentially, yeah.
which Walt never wanted. He wanted my brand is about family and, innocence and pure and quality. Just what, family values were back then. Not saying they've changed, but they have, the years we've changed, but this is it, you know. If you can't fall under these guidelines, then you can't have my mouse. So, yeah, he was definitely, he had a marketing genius. And I think had they not have had that, I don't think Disney would be what it is today. Because, like I said, a lot of that came from Cayman. And, Walt dreamed it. He just made it reality and how to do it.
Right. He found a way to pay for it,
Hmm.
which is
Yeah,
important in a capitalist culture.
it is. Especially when you have such a big dreamer like Walt was, You know, Cinderella back in the day, $1.5 million in the 30s. You know what that would be today?
A lot.
And and instead of telling him
Good
we
answer.
can't do this, it was let me find a way for us to do this. If this is what you see us doing, let me find a way for us to do this. And he did. And she's a hit, and she's still a hit, and she's got her own plaque as soon as you walk into Disney World. Almost close to Little Mermaid.
That could be. That could just be coincidence. I don't know.
Right. But yeah, so yeah, like I said, if you get a chance to watch it, it's pretty good. Even if you don't like Disney, just to see the influence that they have on
All right.
today's stuff,
Just to sort of get a glimpse of some of the innovation behind a lot of that stuff.
Yep. And a different story than Walt's.
Right.
Like I said, they did talk about Walt in this, but I would say that 3/4 of this is just about Kay Kamen and what he did,
Yep.
which was amazing.
So
Marketing genius.
a different perspective on Disney,
Yep.
which is cool. We
Yep.
need that.
We do, especially right now.
Well,
The Mouse House has gotten kind of strange. Yeah,
a little bit.
it's a Disney History Channel. I think that's on Hulu now. Isn't that like Warner Brothers Hulu? And I'm not sure. I watched
You're
it on
the streaming
TV.
service expert around here. You tell us.
It's weird. I have all kinds of streaming services, and I watched that on TV last night. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't gonna say, but yeah.
Yeah. I think that it is Hulu. I think that's who Warner Brothers is letting use their stuff.
I'm sure there's an ownership thing one way or another there. But yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yep.
I like history
Very
stuff.
interesting.
Yep. Alrighty, Mikey.
Okay, I watched something old. I know you're all shocked. But this is an interesting one because I stumbled across it accidentally. It is a movie called Sherlock Holmes and the Deadly Necklace. This is from 1962, and it stars Christopher Lee. Sort of, but we'll get to that. So the kind of the story I've read about this after watching it was that after Lee and Terence Fisher did Hound of the Baskervilles for Hammer, Christopher Lee was very much into Sherlock Holmes, and he was like, I really want to do some more with this character. And so he and Fisher started trying to figure out how to make another Sherlock Holmes movie. Well, Hammer wasn't interested, apparently, so they had to kind of seek elsewhere, and they found a German production company that wanted to start a Sherlock Holmes series of movies, and they had been in contact with the Doyle estate, and the Doyle estate wasn't particularly happy with what the German company was pitching. So they kind of got together, Fisher and Lee and the German company kind of got together and hashed out a script with the help of Kurt Siodmak, who was kind of a famous screenwriter in Hollywood. So, and what came out was this movie. So you got Lee playing Holmes. I believe this was the first time Thorley Walters had played Watson. And this is an interesting Watson. He's kind of somewhere between the Nigel Bruce version and like real Watson. So he was serious most of the time, but there were a couple of moments where he had kind of Nigel Bruce moments, which, given that it only happened once or twice, it wasn't so bad. I actually thought the guy did a pretty decent job. Now, keep in mind, like I said, this is a German company that shot this, and I believe it said they shot it in Italy. So you've got an odd blend of a couple of British people involved in production, and then mostly German and Italian, the rest of the cast and most of the crew. So the weird part about this movie is, like I said, Sherlock Holmes is played by Christopher Lee. I believe it was shot in German, and the version I watched was dubbed in English, and that's not Christopher Lee. That was not his voice. I'm sorry. The person they got to do him was trying. I have to kind of give him credit for that, but it wasn't Christopher Lee, and it was so weird. It was so jarring watching Christopher Lee on screen and hearing somebody else's voice come out of his mouth. It was so jarring. That said, the movie itself is not bad. It's not great. It's a bit of a mishmash of stories. So it's not entirely coherent. It makes sense in making. It's a consistent story throughout. It's just not you can't pick a Holmes story out of it. There's several of them that there's bits and pieces of in there, and it's a little odd in that regard. But generally speaking, it's not a half bad movie. It's just very, very weird with Christopher Lee, and it was weird. But generally speaking, if you're into Holmes, I think it's worth seeing. It's not the best Holmes film out there. It's probably also not the worst, so that's a plus, I guess. And any chance to see, I think this was the only other time he played the role. Unfortunately, he really wanted to, but it just wasn't happening. They were trying to make a resurgence out of Holmes in the 50s and 60s, but it kind of didn't happen. Although oddly, Thorley Walters actually went on to play Watson a few more times in kind of offbeat, odd places. Like, for example, he was in the Gene Wilder movie. It's called The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother.
Smarter Brother, yep.
He was in that, of all things. It was the other kind of oddly recognizable face. The guy who played Moriarty's chauffeur his name was Leon Askin. If you've ever watched Hogan's Heroes, that name will be familiar to you because he was General Burkhalter. He's obviously a good bit younger in this, And that is also very obviously not his voice because, again, the overdubbing. But they got, oh man, the voice they did, because if you've seen Hogan's Heroes, you remember Burkhalter's voice. It's kind of a little bit high-pitched. I mean, it resonates, but it's kind of clink. And no, the voice they got was, oh, this guy he was very serious and talked like this. And I'm like, all right, man, if you say so. Not sure who was in charge of that piece of dubbing, but
Good casting there. Good voice
Makes,
casting there.
yeah, it kind of makes you wonder if maybe they hadn't actually watched the movie when they started casting the dubbing, but whatever. I digress. It's amusing in that way at times.
Well, when you mentioned the whole thing about Christopher Lee being dubbed, I started having flashbacks to what was it, Hercules in New York with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and his voice was dubbed.
Yeah.
This was like his
Stone.
Yeah, this was like his first movie, and yeah, they dubbed him. So you got Arnold, and then you have this voice. It's like, that's not Arnold.
Right. Well, and it's his first movie, so nobody knew the difference then. It's when he got really damn popular, and people started going back finding his old movies, and they're like, "The fuck is this?"
Yeah. It's definitely different with Christopher Lee, because I mean he was a known commodity at that point.
Right, and such an iconic voice too.
Right. Oh God, yes.
Jesus, it's just like, so weird, so weird.
But yeah, it's like they couldn't come up with the money to call him back and say, hey, can you sit down and just
Can you
dub all this, please?
Yeah, I mean, can you just read? I mean, you don't even have to like do the acting. Just come read the script again. Come read your lines again into this microphone. But I mean, honestly, they got somebody cheaper.
Yeah.
And they said try to sound like this guy somewhat, but you know, I'm sure they did the best they could with what they had, which was clearly nothing. But anyway, yeah. Again, like I said, if you're a Holmes purist, then check it out for sure. It's an entertaining. It's a pretty entertaining movie overall. It's just got some. If you're a Holmes fan, it's going to be jarring. That's all. And if you're a Christopher Lee fan, for sure. I think I watched this on Prime. I'm not 100% sure now. It's actually been a couple of weeks since I watched it, but I think it was Prime. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Tubi, but I could be wrong. I think it was Prime.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Les?
Well, what I did was I read one of the books I picked up on Free Comic Book Day. Back in the mid-'70s, First Comics came out with a series done by Howard Chaykin. And the name of that was American Flagg. Then in 1976, there was an episode of American Flagg that was a special. And the special introduced Times Squared, which was another series that Chaykin did. It ran for 2 volumes, and it was a little disjointed at first, but having this single volume now, which includes the American Flagg story and Epiphany and the satisfaction of Black Maria, which were the 2 graphic novels, plus it had finally the third chapter of Times Squared. And getting to sit down and read everything in one long sitting was pretty interesting. It had been since 1970, I want to say 79, when Black Mariah was done. So you're looking at quite some time till this was published by Image. That's what, 24 and 21, 45 years.
A lot of years.
So it's fun to sit down and read this, knowing what's going on now. And it's a final. He did it as the final chapter. He's not going to go any further with it, which I can understand. But it was a good read. And if you get a chance to find it, it's well worth the time, and you should try picking it up, because of course I love Chaykin's work, and he's gone to do many other things, so I recommend this wholeheartedly, and I think others will enjoy it too. So that's essentially what I've got.
Cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I know I've read some of his more recent stuff. It would be interesting to go back and see some stuff he wrote back in the day. I haven't had a chance to do that yet.
Yeah, he did, of course, Satellite Sam and Black Kiss and Another Black Kiss, among other things. So, yeah, he was prolific at that time, that's for sure. He just tried to push it a little more than he should have.
He's a personality, that's for sure.
Yeah, he recognizes that he may have taken it too far when he first did Times Squared. But that didn't deter him from doing other stuff. So, like I say, if you get the chance, it's well worth the time.
Yep, cool.
Nice. For me, seems like I've been spending a lot of time on YouTube. I've kind of been going down a couple of different rabbit holes. One of them happened. It's the strangest thing. I'm not sure how it originally popped up as a suggestion. But I poured it onto the guys, and hopefully you guys have taken a chance to take a look at it, because we were going to talk about this. There's a channel. It's called Strider HD, and he is a video editor, and he does deepfake art as well. And he's been doing a lot of trailers for kind of fan-made trailers. And the one that popped up in my suggestion was a 80s version of Justice League. Did y'all guys take the time to kind of take a look at that and see what y'all thought? Because I wanted to talk about some of the casting.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if y'all are long-time listeners, you know we do our own casting calls.
Wait, what? We do? What?
Yeah, we do it from time to time.
That's nonsense.
We should do one of those sometime soon.
Yeah, we should probably do one here in the next day or two. The thing with his is he takes a lot of the big name actors, and that's fine. I mean, this is his channel. He can do whatever he wants to. But he basically, with his deep fakes, he fixes them up as these particular characters. So for the 80s Justice League, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on some of the casting, because some of the choices I thought, oh, I hadn't thought about that, and the other ones, there were some I went, oh my God, what were you? So what did y'all think?
See, I agree with you in that my overall problem with this one, there's some interesting stuff in there, but my overarching problem was that I think he did too many all at once.
Yeah.
So I think he was, at a certain point, he got to where he was fishing for famous people to stick in there. So it was, the whole thing was kind of like twice as long as I would have wanted it to be. I mean, we have, when we do casting calls, we have a certain number of roles we pick. I think he just like tripled that number and went nuts, and which, that's fine.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
I would say, and I will definitely, the one I guess that stands out the most is Superman. Mainly because when I first saw it, I was like, Travolta? No way. But the more I kind of see it and think about it, it kind of works. I kind of like it in hindsight. I mean, like at first I was like, no. But now I'm like, wait a minute.
Some of my show notes.
Wait a minute. No. That's. Yeah, I'm not rewriting my picks or anything for it, but I'm not hating on it anymore either.
Yeah, I get
see
you.
That though.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where did you post this at?
He's posted it in the Discord a couple of times in different places. I
Oh.
think it's in the videos
I did.
channel, and they also posted
Okay, yeah.
And I also
You posted
did it
it last week for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, in the
It's
discussion.
specifically
yes.
for you.
Yep.
Not really. I
Yep.
think I
Well,
asked him
my
if he posted
computer
it
was
too.
down when he posted it the first time.
That's actually a pretty good argument, I would say. But yeah.
Yep, it was.
Well, for
Well, that's why it's
for
in
the first,
discussion now.
Right.
yeah, for the first video, yes. I agree with you with there was way too many characters, and I think he was just kind of do that where he kind of covered all bases.
Right.
I
He
mean,
had a
there's
certain
a
number of. I think he was doing it more based on the stars than on the roles in the comic.
right.
Which is
Yeah.
fine. But he was trying too hard on
yeah.
some of them, I think.
I mean, it's his channel, it's his videos. He can do whatever he wants to.
Sure.
That's fine. Right. So, I mean, that's fine. I'm not saying what he's doing is right or wrong or anything. It's just it's some interesting choices.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of go back to something you said. We just have a limited number when we do our casting calls. Well, because there's 4 of us that are given our choices, and these things can go pretty long as well.
Yeah, we talk a while on these things, and that's fine. That's it's fun for us, and we have a good time with it. And I mean, what I say long. How long was that video? A couple of minutes. I mean, it wasn't really all that long. Maybe 3. I don't remember off the top of my head, but there was just a lot kind of crammed. I mean, he's doing it strictly off of images, so it makes it go faster, but it's still seemed padded to me. But it's fine. I mean, I agree. He has the right to do it for sure. I'm not taking that away from him, but
right. I definitely love the idea of Peter Weller as Luthor. I thought that would be. When I saw that, I was like, "Ooh, okay, that could be interesting." That could be interesting.
It could. I wonder if he chose that for the wrong reasons, but I actually think he could have been good in that role for sure.
Yeah. Well, he starts off with Harrison Ford as Bruce Wayne Batman, and I just
and he put Kevin Costner back in green and a bow.
Well, he did that with Avengers too. He had Costner as Hawkeye. It's like, okay, it's the whole Robin Hood thing.
Typecast much? Jeez.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna typecast him, it's not gonna be for that role.
Yeah. because you couldn't do it with the English accent, so
Right.
like some others
Yeah.
could.
Mm.
Les, your thoughts?
I think he did go a little overboard, but some of the decisions to me were not right. So I don't really want to judge a lot.
You don't want to rag on the guy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll blame you. I think and I'm biased because of the way we do these things. I think I would have appreciated it more if there was some explanation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally not biased at all, right?
Well, and two, like with our casting calls that we do, I think he did pretty good for the time period. Because most of those names were pretty popular in the
It was
80s.
all of the
you know?
big names. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the deal. He had a list of big name stars from that decade, and he used them all.
Yeah.
That's how I do my casting.
Well, yes,
Well,
I see who was there.
but you at least bullshit your way around it well, you know?
Yeah.
You can fake your
Yeah,
way into
and,
it, and
well,
it's fine.
I mean, two, with my casting calls, I know most of the time I know who these people are. So it's just a basic list of here's who you could have pulled from,
Mhm.
But like you were saying with his choices, it was like, here's the Oscar winners of the 80s,
Right. Everybody in a
or box office names, yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Everybody in a
know.
$200 million making movie is in this list, and I'm like,
Low
okay,
budget
Right.
maybe,
on casting to have
right.
them sit in a room and look at each other because that's all you can afford.
And the other thing about it is the art really does look good in some cases. I mean, it's a little iffy
It
in
does.
spots, but it's
Right.
really
Oh,
pretty.
yeah.
He did a really pretty
Yeah.
job of it, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Totally agree on that.
Travolta
Yeah.
looks good as Superman. I mean, should he be Superman?
I mean,
don't know, but he looks good in the role. He looks good in the
He
costume.
do that, or is that AI?
Well,
I
he
assumed
does
it was
the
the
AI.
AI.
Well, he's
Yeah.
controlling it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a
True.
he's a deep fake artist, so I mean,
Mhm.
he's doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
I
have
never-
a problem with AI, but yeah.
I never would have thought of Kurt Russell as Hawkman, but when I saw him as that image, I was like, okay, that works. That works for me.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Not so much David Hasselhoff as Shazam, but we'll move on from there.
Like I said.
I don't know. I kind of liked that though. You could kind of see it,
That would see that now. See the smart play would have been to make to make him like Namor or Aquaman or something.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love that he put Tim Curry in this. Just saying,
Oh sure.
he was the 80s.
Yeah, good chunk of the 70s too. But yeah.
Yeah, he was. And then he did voice work and was a big chunk of the 90s too.
Oh.
So,
That was
we'll
pretty
definitely
cool.
put definitely. We'll definitely put a link in the show notes for y'all to check it out. I mean, he does a great job, and
Yeah, they look really good.
He's done a ton of these. These seems like they come out every couple of days. I mean, he's done like Justice League for 3 or 4 different decades, X-Men, Avengers. I already talked about the Avengers. And like I said, there's been some choices on there. I went, okay, yeah, I can see that. That would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That would be.
So,
Well,
definitely
see, now
check that out.
seeing that, I would like to try maybe copying down our casting call one time and seeing what I can run through AI and find.
Oh, there you go.
That'd be pretty cool. I never
Well,
thought
I mean,
about doing that.
Well, another one was kind of interesting because he did a 90s X-Men. Of course, the first film was in the 90s, I believe.
Yeah.
But the two that popped out was one I thought was a no-brainer back then. I mean, that would have been my choice if we had done it. And who knows, we may do X-Men 90s down the road anyway. Rutger Hauer is Magneto.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I could see that.
Uh-huh.
The one that I thought was really interesting is he picked Leonard Nimoy for Xavier.
Really?
Huh.
I went, that's interesting.
That is interesting.
That's not something I would have thought of.
I could see that, though. They kind of had the same kind of
Oh yeah, I could
so smart, out of touch kind of thing. I don't know what the word for that is.
Out of touch.
Well, like Sheldon, smart where you're not aware of yourself socially sometimes.
I think the recent, the way it would be dubbed recent in recent history would be on the spectrum. But anyway.
Probably. Yeah.
So definitely check that out. But it's funny because once I went down that rabbit hole, all of a sudden there's another channel which I don't remember off the top of my name, and I don't have it in front of me right now, where this person does everything in the 50s. So it's the Justice League in the 50s. It's the X-Men in the 50s. It's Batman in the 50s. And I'm like, and I looked at that, and it looks kind of interesting. I'll try to see if I can find it again, and we'll put that in the show notes as well. But it's like, it's funny how you can watch one video and then all of a sudden YouTube says, oh, okay, you want to watch all of this? Well, maybe not, but okay.
Yeah, not really, but okay, thanks.
I appreciate
the
that.
thought.
Thank you for thinking of me. So. Well, speaking of casting calls, we've got one today. Dun, dun, dun.
What?
Dun,
Dun, dun, dun, dun, dun, dun. Better stop before we get sued by Warner Brothers.
Pretty much. And then she keeps going. I mean, come on now.
You got me started.
You literally said stop.
It's not my fault.
I say stop, and she keeps on going.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if we start singing Baby Shark?
I was thinking of Come Sail Away because that was a thing at one time, but
might
once
take
you
that
start, you
meme
can't
song
stop.
I was telling y'all.
Mm.
This is the song that never ends.
Wow.
I better be careful. Someone will try to sign me again, huh? For my dropping beats.
Uh-huh. Absolutely dropping them beats.
Oh, man.
Never gets old.
It never
Gets old.
That was hilarious.
Casting call.
Casting call.
What a great idea. We should do that one of those sometime.
Like right now.
Okay.
If you've never checked out one of our casting calls, what we usually do is I come up with a concept that's usually comic book related, but we've done stuff that's not. We've done other things where I pick a certain time period and I pick a certain source, whether it's like a series or a movie or hell, we've even done a Raiders of the Lost Ark as a movie serial back in 39 or 40 or something like that. We've done a Gru animated series, just anything like that. So, and I come up with a list of characters for everybody to make their picks. So for today's casting call, we are doing a Defenders movie from 1999, and this is actually going to be more of a comic accurate Defenders lineup as opposed to the Netflix, which I don't have a personal problem with the Netflix lineup. They're great characters. I just picked something that's a little bit more comic accurate. Obviously, since this is 30 years old now, we went back 30 years, something like that.
Mm.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and start casting our Defenders team. Who would like to go first?
I'll kick this off.
It's practically a tradition
I'm
now.
not familiar
Yeah,
with
pretty much.
I'm not familiar with the Defenders series as well, but I was familiar with some of the individuals that was in the Defenders, if that makes sense.
Well, and that's kind of
Okay,
how the
that
Defenders
being
work.
said, yeah.
Right, so it's cool.
And
You're
some
good.
of them, I honestly, I didn't know.
I'd look some up too. Don't worry. It's cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
this team's moniker is the first non-team, because they're not really a team. It's more like individuals who happen to kind of work
Help
together
each other.
because they have to.
If they're around.
Right.
Well, and I think I mentioned this before. There was the series that Eric Larson, who the guy who created Savage Dragon, he wrote and drew a series of Defenders back in, I guess, the 90s or early 2000s, something like that. Anyway, the whole thing was in the very first story, they were dealing with some end of the world threat, something like that, but they were bickering each other the entire time, and the villain noticed this. So what he did was he put a curse on them. So whenever there was a threat to one of them, the rest of them, from wherever they are, no matter what they're doing, they're automatically pulled together, and they have to be together. So that became the series. It's all of a sudden, just something happens where they all have to get together, and of course they're bitching at each other because they're having to be together. And I was like, that's genius.
That is actually genius. I mean, you wouldn't want to make an extended series out of it, but as a one-off series, it's great.
Yeah, I thought that's a great idea, because that's what they did.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of argument between them, and it's like that's so appropriate. I loved it. So let's go ahead and start casting, Liz.
Anyway, yeah, we keep interrupting you, don't we?
All right. Well, being a movie, I went with bigger names on this, and I fought myself on the first one because I didn't want to cast him because I don't like him. But the more I thought about it, it was like the 90s, you would need a big name for this because he's probably the lead. This would be for Doctor Strange. So I went with Tom Cruise. Just right out of the gate. Tom Cruise.
Just screw it. We're just going to all in. Tom Cruise. Here we go.
He has the ego. He has the look. He has the acting, So it was kind of like, mainly the ego is what made me put him in this one. But I kicked it around with a different choice, and I went back later, and it was like, no, it's Tom Cruise. Just the narcissist ego of Doctor Strange is perfect for Tom Cruise. He doesn't even have to act. Kidding.
Ouch.
But yeah, I mean, he's got the face for it, so yeah.
Sure.
But that's half my budget right there.
Oh, entirely right. Especially in the 90s.
He was pretty popular in the 90s. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I get a little bit more B-list,
How old was he at that time?
He would have been mid-20s, right?
He'd been in 90?
No, because
Risky Business was 82. He was probably in his early 20s then, so 30-ish.
Yeah. Old enough to be a doctor. He would have been 28. So, yeah, late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah, I went a
But
little
by
older
the
with
time
my
they put
pick.
his little white sideburns on him and stuff, they could have aged him a few years.
That would have been so funny looking though.
Mm.
That's another
With a
reason to
fake
do
mustache.
it. That would be
Yeah.
great. You'd have to do the fake mustache if you're going to do the white sideburns. That would just be great.
Yeah. I had to run that one through AI.
Oh man, seriously,
That would be funny. Yep.
that would be interesting to see. Okay, so I'll go next, and I did go a little older. And in response to Liz's going nuts, I picked people who weren't huge yet. A couple of them got big later, but this is still early in some careers, and there's actually one pick later on that I'm afraid many of us are going to pick the same guy for, but we'll get there. It's not Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange, I was looking for someone who could. I wasn't worried about someone carrying the movie. I was kind of looking at him as maybe kind of the one bringing this team together out of necessity. So I wasn't looking for an A-list guy necessarily, but I picked somebody who I thought could, one, look the part, and two, still, he was a successful actor for a long time. Up until recently, honestly. I chose Eric Braeden.
Ooh.
Best known for The Young and the Restless, I believe.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. He was, oh, God dang. Victor.
Victor. That's
Right?
right. Yeah, that's the name I remember seeing.
Yep.
Victor.
Yep.
And played him
On
for
Young and the Restless.
literally 40 years.
Victor Newman. I should have remembered that. Victor
Yes, you
Newman.
totally should have remembered that. Holy cow.
Sometimes I get him messed up with the other Victor on Days of Our Lives, which is actually Jennifer Aniston's dad.
Ah.
So, the two Victors, yeah.
Yeah, one of the Victors. That's who I picked.
Nice.
I can see that. He's very distinguished and, yeah.
Right, and he could turn on pompous pretty easily, I think.
Well, very easily.
Yeah,
He didn't cross Victor.
right. There you go.
Yep.
Okay. Les.
Hell, I just went for a big name. I thought John Travolta would be a good fit because he did have some interesting roles, especially later. And I just have a feeling that he could have fit this because this was a key role that is not for everyone, but can be for him.
Yeah. I had thought about him too.
I can see it.
Yeah,
Yep.
I could too.
Well, for me, I went with the pick that I had made several years back because I thought it would have been a good choice then. I still think it's a good choice now, especially when he would have the facial hair, and I think it would have been a perfect fit. Here's Brosnan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think this would have been a good time for it too, as far as
Yeah.
like his age. He would have fit right into it.
He would have. I like that.
Yep.
I do too.
Okay, next on the list,
All right, next up we have Submariner. Um, this was one I didn't know a lot about, and I looked at some of the choices that of people who have played him in previous roles and stuff. So once again, falling back on the 90s, I went with Eric Estrada on this one.
Interesting.
Just
That's an interesting choice. Yeah.
Interesting. I kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
he was still on the chip swing in the 90s, wasn't he?
If you mean he hadn't done anything much with his career since Chips, then yes.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
I mean,
brutal.
he had been around. He was still around in the 90s. He was doing stuff, but he hadn't really done anything super
Nothing
popular.
big.
Right.
Well, and he was more TV than he was movies. So,
That might just be a matter of choices, but
yeah.
whether his or the people offering him his gigs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I could see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I didn't quite think of that. That's interesting. But the guy I picked someone who honestly is probably best known as like a character actor type. I mean, I think he's been nominated for some stuff, but I also picked somebody intentionally who I've seen do well in both serious and comedic roles.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure I've picked him for other stuff before, but I don't care. I'm doing it anyway. I picked Richard E. Grant.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I had to pull him up.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that.
He could do whatever you needed him to do in that role.
Yep.
Okay. Wes.
Pretty cool.
Once again, I went back to the old standby, and I went with Matt Damon as a younger version. I just have a feeling that the arrogance could be there without a problem.
Hmm.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting choice.
I like that.
Yeah.
Would have been pretty
I
young.
had thought about him for a different role. Yep.
Interesting.
Well, for me, I picked someone who I guess I was influenced by another movie. I could see him bring kind of the intensity that Namor would have. Obviously, he would need to do a little workout to kind of get the physique.
Hit the gym.
Hit the gym a little bit, but I think he could do it. Liam Neeson.
Ooh. That's
Yeah.
cool. I
Mhm.
like
Who
that.
again?
Liam Neeson.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because he did Darkman.
Darkman.
Darkman was right
Yep.
around this time, yeah.
Yep.
That was my influence.
I like it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
All right. Next one on our list is Valkyrie. It's the 90s. If you're going to make a movie, you had to use one of these two blondes. Alicia Silverstone had already did her Batman thing, so I went the other way with Reese Witherspoon.
Interesting.
I mean, right? They dominated the female leads in the 90s, so.
They had
And they
some
almost
success.
look the same.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, you're definitely
Yep.
pulling out the salary stops, that's for sure.
Yep.
That's all right.
It gets bigger.
Yeah. Oh, good. Lucky, great. Actually, mine might get bigger too before this is over. But anywho, so Valkyrie, I picked a little against type on this one, mainly because I couldn't think of. It's funny you come up with multiples, and I couldn't find one. The only person I thought of, and the only person I could think of initially for this was Michelle Pfeiffer, and I'm like, no, I actually don't think she's right for this. I think there's a better way
Yeah.
to do this, and so I picked someone who wasn't blonde, to be honest, thinking, well, what difference does it make, right? There are dark-haired people in Scandinavia, right? Well, most of them might be transplants, but that's beside the point. I actually picked someone else who I have seen do serious and comedy. I think I'm going to make this a comedy. I don't know why. But I chose Terry Farrell for this one, for Valkyrie.
Super, or Lois, huh? No.
No, that was
No.
Terry Hatcher.
Terry
Dax.
Farrell.
Terry Farrell
Yeah,
was
that's
Dax.
Hatcher.
Dax. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
Interesting.
I could too.
Okay, Les.
For me, this was the one choice that I think is solid. And I went with an exotic young lady, Ornella Muti from Flash Gordon.
Oh, okay.
Cool, yeah. She was the one who was, what's her face?
Ardella.
Yeah, the princess.
Princess
Princess Aurora.
Aurora.
Or
Okay.
Aura.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's funny. We were thinking kind of in the same direction, I think. Didn't get to the same place, but kind of in the same direction. Cool.
Well, apparently we were going in opposite directions because my choice was Michelle Pfeiffer.
I mean, right? She's like the super obvious choice, which is kind of why I wanted to avoid her, but there you go. See?
Well, for me, she kind of fell into that same trap as she'd already did a DC. Well, I guess at that point she hadn't, but she had already did a DC movie.
Right. That's a couple years later, but that
Yeah.
was that was part of why I didn't want to do it. But I didn't care about the Marvel DC thing. I wanted to let her be Catwoman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was up there for me too.
All right. Next.
All right, so the next one on our list is Luke Cage. Now, this one I did know a lot about, and the first thing that came to my mind was he's a bad motherfucker. And then it was like, who do you hear say that? Like, all the time. So I actually went with Samuel Jackson on this one, because he is a bad motherfucker.
Shut your mouth.
First thing I thought she's gonna pull John Singleton out of this, and I'm like, how in the world? But no, we didn't get there. But anyway,
He may have
Close.
been fighting
Oh, yeah.
plane or snakes on a plane at this point, but
I mean,
he
he would
would
have
have
been
done it.
a bit older Luke Cage, but I don't see anything wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
See, this one, she has a problem. He shouldn't have a problem bringing in, but Michelle Pfeiffer, you know. But anyway.
Well, I almost went
no, that's
Wesley Snipes, but I fell into that.
Shit.
He's
See,
Blade.
This is the one
you know.
where, and this is the pick I was hinting at when I was like, we're going to all pick the same guy for this, because I picked Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
And honestly, part of why I picked him,
He would have been perfect.
and part of why I picked him is because this is actually before all of that shit. I'm picking
Yeah.
him strictly on Major League,
Yeah.
because Major League was 89. I did this for 1990. I mean, that's
And
all he had done,
in the
really.
90s, there wasn't a lot that Wesley Snipes couldn't do. You know, he's been cast in a vast, very diverse movies and stuff. So I think he could probably handle anything you throw at him.
Right, and my deal was that early in his career, what they cast him for was he was a guy who could punch things.
Yeah.
He's legitimately a martial artist, so I thought it fit beautifully. Maybe a little too much, but we'll see when other people give their picks. But anyway,
I like that one. Like I said, he was definitely on that too.
So, Les, did you pick Wesley?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, but it didn't even cross my mind.
No, that's good.
I look for a bruiser, somebody that could take on multiple people, and I went with Michael Clark Duncan.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yep. He's pretty good.
He was Tebow.
Hubo?
Isn't he the one on Friday? Tebow?
No, I think that might have been Tiny Lister.
Oh, you're right. Yep. Michael Clark Duncan was.
Green Mile.
That's right. Yep. I like that one too. Yep.
He was also Kingpin in something.
Daredevil.
Yeah.
Yep, Daredevil.
He was in Sin City.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mike, I didn't pick Wesley Snipes, but I did pick a castmate from Major League. Dennis Haysbert.
Yeah, remember that name, folks.
Ta-da.
The President.
Mm-hmm. Pedro Serrano.
Pedro Serrano.
You saying Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?
Jesus, I like him very much, but he don't help me hit a curveball.
I gotta watch that again. It's been too long.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Get Liz to watch it too. I know she's not much in sports, but I think she would like the movie.
There's
It's
enough
funny as hell.
There's enough not sports stuff in it in the background. I think that she might be okay. She'd get bored during the game
Major League?
scenes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. It had Charlie Sheen in it.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie
He was
Sheen,
like-
Tom Berenger, Wesley Snipes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Ben Birdson.
Well, Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez, Lou Diamond Phillips. That was like all the teenage crush guys. So don't know anything about baseball, but I watched the movie.
Cool.
Okay.
That was
Cool.
before he was drinking Dragon Blood.
Yes.
In my defense.
Yes. Oh yeah, he was pretty young.
Or Tiger Blood. Yeah.
Yep.
He changed.
A little bit. We all changed some way or another, but anyway.
Yeah.
Mm.
He was on it in the 90s, man.
Yeah, he was.
That was probably peak for him,
Mhm.
For all them guys.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Next.
Oh, right.
This is where we start getting the characters that Liz doesn't know.
Yep. I didn't know this one,
I neither.
but I
Don't feel
wanted to
bad.
cast this guy, so.
Go for it. Cool.
So 90s, I went with Brad Pitt. He had to be somewhere in here.
Damn.
I couldn't make him a bad guy, so this was the last one.
Ironically, with what little research I did on this guy, he was one of those who used to be a bad guy but was now a good guy.
Yeah.
So you could have it both ways with Brad Pitt here.
Never mind.
Uh-huh, exactly. Softballing him up there for you.
Just know I'm blushing right now.
I live to make you blush. Yes. The two of my things that I do to people, I make them blush and I make them blow things out their nose.
And I mean,
Pretty disgusting.
Not always at the same, very rarely at the same time. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm sure it's a major achievement when you can get them to do both at the same time. That would be awesome.
That's masterpiece level work right there. So Nighthawk, huh?
Nighthawk.
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt, yeah. I didn't pick Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
I went with more an attitude than a look, and also I had seen varying images of this guy on interwebs. I decided to choose one of our perennial favorites. I picked Keith David for this.
Okay.
All right.
That works.
I like it. Yep.
Although Brad Pitt was a good idea, and I'm serious about that.
Yep.
I went with Kiefer Sutherland.
Okay.
Interesting.
That is. He was also in that Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen clique.
They were all the kids
Well,
of
I don't know
stars.
why I grouped them together. Maybe Young Guns?
Disney's Three Musketeers springs to mind. Also,
Yeah.
Wait, Charlie Sheen wasn't in that, was he?
But I think Young
Yeah, he
Guns
was.
was the one that brought them,
Yeah.
like, you had
Yeah,
all the,
that was the one that was an actually
teenage
good movie.
heartthrobs
Right.
in one movie.
That was the one that was the actual good movie. Three Musketeers was terrible, but it was fun, but it was terrible.
Yeah.
And wasn't Chris O'Donnell one of them too?
Mm-hmm. Chris O'Donnell, Charlie Sheen, Kiefer Sutherland, and Oliver Platt. Tim Curry played Cardinal Richelieu, by the way, in that.
Yeah. And
Way over the top.
most of them were also together in The Outsiders. Like young kids.
10 years before that, yeah.
Yep. So I guess maybe that's what it was. They just all kind of played in the same movies. A lot of them played in the same together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're all right around the same age.
They're all right around the same age. They all
Yeah.
grew up together. I mean, like I said, they're all children of Hollywood stars.
The
Well,
Brat
and
Pack.
Emilio and Charlie are brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I
Right,
did
Martin
not know
Sheen's
that.
kids.
That was like, what?
Yeah. Martin
Because
Sheen's.
I don't think that was well known until the 90s, when they were in Young Guns and stuff together.
Right,
Yeah,
everybody-
Martin Sheen's last name is Estevez.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Estevez, didn't he take after the mom? She's also like in Hollywood too, so I think that's what it was. Charlie took after Martin and Emilio took his mom's last name.
No, his real last name was Estevez.
No, his real. Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Charlie
his-
decided to use his dad's screen name
Stage name. Oh, okay.
or stage name, whatever, however you want to look at it.
Yes.
Yeah, Martin
Yeah,
Sheen.
because Martin's brother is also an actor too. Can't remember his first name.
Yep. And then Kiefer Sutherland obviously is Donald Sutherland's son.
Right. Yeah. Who had played with Martin a lot.
Mm-hmm. They worked together some.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And they grew up. They lived in the same neighborhood basically.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. I like that one.
Yeah, I do
I
too.
think my favorite for him is Lost Boys, though. He played a really, really good vampire. And he didn't twinkle.
He did not sparkle, for sure.
Yeah. No sparkle at all. But,
We had to twinkle at some point.
it was kind of cool to see him like that because before he had played, in like The Outsiders and stuff too, he had played kind of like the rough guy, but in Lost Boys it was like he was the bad guy. And it was kind of cool to not see him in that, younger, or I don't know. It was a different kind
It
of,
was different. Yeah.
yeah. And he definitely let his acting shine a lot in that one. So
Hmm.
it just went up from there.
He's done some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good pick. Stop that one.
Huh? Do what?
I said top that one.
Okay. Gary Oldman.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah. I almost cast him for the next one. But yeah.
Hard to go
He's
wrong.
another one that can play anything
Anything.
you give him, you know.
Yep.
He could,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, he could play a stapler and win an Academy Award.
He could. Yeah. Yep. Well, you topped it.
Ask and you shall receive.
Happy to help.
Right.
Yeah, see, the problem is he actually picked Charlie Sheen for that, but when you said top that, he just pulled out Gary Oldman to shut you up.
Yep.
No, I'm kidding. He didn't.
Okay, next.
Okay, this one I didn't know who he was, and all of the pictures that I've pulled up of him and read of him, he just looked like this little squirrely dude. So I'm thinking, who looked like a little squirrely dude in the 90s? And so I went with Edward Norton.
This is for Nightmare, by the way.
Yeah, for Nightmare. Is that what I said?
You didn't say it at all. That's fine. It's fine.
Oh,
It's
I'm
fine. We
sorry.
got
I
it.
thought
I got
said
you covered.
Nightmare. Yeah, yeah. So I went with Edward Norton for Nightmare. Little squirrely dude,
Interesting.
especially in the 90s.
See, that's. I mean, I like a lot of what I've seen Ed Norton in, so I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. But he looks a little squirrely, you know. Great actor. He looks a little
good
squirrely.
actor.
Not Hulk,
Not going to
but,
argue.
you know.
No, I mean, honestly, he could with one role. I mean, what the hell was the name of that movie? You know the one with Brad Pitt.
We're not
Fight
supposed
Club?
to speak. No, we're not supposed to
Fight Club.
speak of.
Yeah, the one we don't speak
Yeah,
about,
Fight Club.
right? Because honestly,
With
I've
Brad
never
Pitt.
seen it. But yeah, that if you're looking for a squirrely character, that's your template right there.
Yeah.
When I
Yes.
saw the same pictures you did, I assume I did not see squirrely, but
Mhm.
I saw a kind of gaunt, almost to the point of barely looking human.
Yeah.
So I went with the most gaunt character I could. Well, I thought about a gaunt character, and what I thought of was not human. But I went with the guy who basically did the voice for it, and actually I think kind of looks the role. I chose John Cassier for Nightmare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing else, you get an interesting voice out of the deal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
But he also acted and wasn't always just a voice guy. He did in front of the camera stuff, and so I thought it would be fun.
I
Yep.
liked it. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Les.
I chose someone that would end up with a role similar to that. Willem Dafoe.
Cool.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah. Squirrely looking. Yep. I like it.
Wow. She's hanging on to things tonight, isn't she?
Just a little.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah, I do too.
I do. Yep.
What I envisioned, I envisioned they would just say he would have more of a human appearance, the regular appearance, instead of what you would see in the comics, because that's kind of how they do things.
Hard to pull off in 1990, yeah.
Right. So I cast someone who could bring a little intensity. I didn't think about the squirrely, but he can do it. He can do any damn thing he wants, but definitely the intensity. I really pulled out all the stops on this one. Al Pacino.
Yes.
Oh man, you did pull out
Yep.
all the
I could see
stops.
that too.
Damn.
Yep.
Okay.
Maybe you've been influenced by the Devil's Advocate. I don't know.
Intensity with a side of ham. Yeah, I'm having a hard time getting my head out of Dick Tracy at the moment, but yeah. Somewhere in there.
Yep.
That would be seriously over the top, but that's okay.
Yep.
You're gonna get that with Pacino anyway. Cool.
Right.
Very cool.
Okay. And our last roll.
Last one. I wasn't familiar with this one either. Baron Mordo.
Mm.
And on this one, I went with Tom Sizemore.
Okay.
I'll buy that.
Mm-hmm.
That could work.
I'll buy
Good
that
solid
for $1.
bad guy.
Uh-huh. He does a pretty good bad guy.
Yeah, he can be a little psycho when he needs to be.
Which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool. And see, this is I get the little bit of callback here because this is one. I mean, I'm slightly familiar with the character, but I wasn't. It was one of those where I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do with them. So I was like, okay, well let's put somebody in it that I know is good and see what happens. And this is we get to call back a little bit. I picked Dennis Haysbert for this.
Dun, dun, dun. Yep, that works.
Cool.
Of course, I'm going to say it's going to work because.
You've already picked him, so yeah.
Yeah. Les?
I'm going to bow out on this one because I had difficulty, could not find an image of Baron Mordo. Baron Zemo, yes. Mordo, yes. No Baron Mordo. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, for me, I went with Lawrence Fishburne.
Okay.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yep, I like that one too.
He was doing stuff pretty good before he was Morpheus.
Yep. Oh, hell, he was in, he had a bit part in the original Death Wish. That's back in 70, I don't know.
78, something like that.
Something like that.
6 maybe.
He was in, yeah. He was in Nightmare on Elm Street, I think 4 or 5, one of those. He had a bit part in that one too, so he's been around for a while.
Mm-hmm. He did a bunch of serious stuff in that kind of in between that time too.
Yep.
And I want to say there was a film version of Othello that he was in, but I could be wrong. I could be thinking of somebody else.
No, that sounds right. I just don't remember when.
I think it might have been later, but still. Hard to go wrong there.
Mm-hmm. All right. Did anybody do any other casting?
Not here.
Nope. Okay.
I had thought about it,
Well,
and then I never got back to it.
That's okay. I mean, we do it sometimes, but it wasn't mandatory. So, All right, great choices again.
Yeah,
it's always interesting. Always interesting to see where we come from when we do these. Yeah. So.
Yep. Even if it's from a place of insanity, it's still fun.
Okay, well, I hope everybody out there enjoyed this. If you have any thoughts or feelings on these castings, or maybe your own choices, please send them our way. We'd love to hear what y'all think.
Yep.
Any final thoughts before we take a quick break?
Nope.
Nothing here.
No, I'd watch any of these
I almost
movies.
said thanks, everybody.
No, we're not to that point yet.
Someone's already ready to go to bed.
No kidding.
Right.
Getting close to 11
It's
o'clock or
almost
something.
11.
Jeez.
I'm a little
It's
orange
11 o'clock
right now.
somewhere. Mm-hmm.
Somebody trying to get out
And
of
on that
doing
note,
news.
And on that note, we are going to take a quick break and be back with Geek News for you.
Yay.
And we're back. It's time for Geek News for you. In this segment, we bring a couple of news items to the table for discussion. This week, it's Liz and myself. And Liz, would you go first? Would you like to go first, please?
Sure. This one I've kind of talked about before, but this is an update.
Ooh,
I
updates.
think it's a pretty good update. Back in 2022, I think it was, DC decided to do a multiverse game, and it was pretty cool because there for a while they were this was all in open beta, but they were releasing like Scooby-Doo. I think they had the Iron Giant on there. They had a lot of the Cartoon Network like Adventure Time and Steven Universe, and a lot of different characters and stuff that they kept throwing out. Well, then they just kind of stopped with updates because once again, this is open beta game. This wasn't, a soft launch or anything. This was strictly tell us what you think. Well, last year, without any kind of warning and everything else, they took the game off the market. And we weren't really for sure why, because usually after a game does pretty well in beta, they just go ahead and do the soft launch and, roll the game out. Now, apparently, what they did is they actually listened to their fans. Oh my God, what a new concept.
How does that work? Jeez.
Right. They took all the feedback that they got during the beta game, and like I said, they listened. They were like, okay, they didn't like some of the combat mechanics. Let's go ahead and change that up. They said that a lot of the user base dropped off at the end, and when they cited the reason for leaving the game, they said there was no new content. So they haven't really said how they're going to address that, but they're releasing the game. Final launch of the game will be actually my son's birthday, May 26th of 2024. But not only will we have all of the characters that they rolled out during beta, they're going to launch this one with Jason Voorhees.
Ooh.
Wow. When you hear of all of the characters they have, and then you get Jason, it's kind of like, that is an interesting choice. So now you can have Jason fight Scooby. So, like I said, I wish him the best. It's not very often you get video game developers go, okay, we're listening. A lot of games out the gate, most of the time they're like, we know what we're doing. Justice League, Suicide Squad. They didn't know what they were doing. They should have listened to their fans. And I think on this game, they actually did it right by putting it in beta for so long. That was kind of the running joke. Is it ever going to come out of beta? Well, it's kind of good that it didn't, because it sounds like they took all of that feedback and shut it all down, completely changed it up, and made it to what people were complaining that they wanted it to be. So hopefully pretty good game. It will come out on, let me pull up the systems again pretty much all the systems, PC, PS5, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X. So should be all platforms, which is kind of cool because that means you can play with your friends no matter what they have. Yay, we always like that. And hopefully this time Warner Brothers gets a win because I think they're kind of limping right now with the failed launch of Suicide Squad. So kind of crazy this kind of game will do it for them, but I remember playing while it was in beta, and the thing I liked about it was you could pick it up, you could play a couple of rounds, and you could put it down. It wasn't something that just sucked your time. You know, you had a story to complete, or you know, you have to farm this, or you know, it's a Smash Brothers style game, so you play a couple of rounds, you put it down. You know, of course, like all games, I'm sure later on you'll get into the pay to win kind of situations with characters and that kind of thing, but I don't really remember that being a big problem in beta. Maybe just because they hadn't rolled a bunch of skins out yet, or, you know, the characters were pretty easy to get because it was beta. I don't know.
Right, they weren't
But
charging
it
people
didn't,
for it, so it wasn't pay to win yet.
right. So I don't know. Hopefully they kind of keep it like that because I know that pay to win's a thing. And hey, if you've got that kind of money, go for it. You know, I
People
blow
do,
my
or they
money
wouldn't.
on other kinds of entertainment, you know, but I like games that are based on skill, not how big your credit card is, you know. And usually for me, that's my drop off point when I've maxed as much as I can godly do without paying a bunch of money and I still can't win because these other people with credit cards, that's when I drop a game. It's no fun at that point, you know. But like I said, I wish them luck. They've got some really good characters lined up for this one. Um, I could see them keeping new content coming out because DC's got a vast IP library. So, yay!
Yeah, see, it's funny
Yeah.
talking about a game being in an extended beta because um, what was the most recent game that there was a big deal about the extended beta? Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
What else do they call Baldur's Gate 3? Game of the year.
Trash.
So,
Oh.
oh no, oh no, it was
I
Game of
thought
the year.
I thought Baldur's Gate 3 was the one that they totally broke by updating it.
No, no, no,
Hmm.
no. Um, I think that was Cyberpunk 2077. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
I mean, they may have fiddled with something in an update with Baldur's Gate 3. But no, it was the beta cycle was like 3 years on that game. And you know
Yeah.
what? By the time they were done, it was, from all reports that I've heard, a really damn good game. So, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe that extended beta thing will become a little more normal now.
I don't understand. Now, I know you've got your normal Kevins and Nancys on the internet who's going to tell you how to do your job. You know, that's just a given with anything that you do.
Hmm.
But when you have vast knowledge of people who do coding or design or, you know, they've played games for years, to totally ignore what you have at your fingertips, to me, is foolish. And you're going to fall on your face every time. But if you actually listen and you weed out all of the Kevins and Nancys, you get some pretty good, solid, you know,
You
hey,
can get some
okay,
good feedback.
we
Yeah.
fucked up here, you know, maybe we should, or if you've got the majority of the people going, hey, I can't play this because of this, maybe that's something you should look into. But the attitude that I hate to keep bashing on this game, but the attitude that Warner Brothers has had with Suicide Squad, it's no, we know what we're doing. We did it this way on purpose. Well, you have a fucking shitty game on your hands, and now you're telling us you did it on purpose. So they're just tone deaf. You need to listen to your audience, and it's not the people who aren't playing your game. It's the people who are still giving you your money and still trying to make this game work. That's the people you should listen to. That's the ones that are going to tell their friends and get other people in and fix your game. You know? I love open source when you got a bunch of minds together and creating together. It's beautiful.
Uh-huh. It is, or at least
I
it
don't,
can be. And I mean, the
it
trick, of
can be,
course,
yeah.
is that that's really hard to do. I mean, but any of it's really hard to do. So I mean, that's a lame excuse, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's tricky. It's a hard thing to know how to do. And yeah, Warner Brothers clearly dropped the ball on it this time.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
like I
maybe
said,
not.
maybe this will be their saving
Yeah,
grace
maybe, hopefully.
because it does sound like they took a lot of the criticism they were getting and was like, okay, what valid. Yeah, we'll fix that.
Hmm.
And now if it's borked, they can go, hey, this is what you wanted.
Right. Well,
You know,
and the
we didn't do it the way we wanted it. We did it the way you
and
wanted
the tactful
it.
thing is to not go that route. But yeah, I mean, honestly,
Right.
they can. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, hopefully if they screw it up, then hopefully this time they will have enough presence of mind, for lack of a better term, to figure out what went wrong in their gathering of feedback. Because I mean, it might be a situation where they're listening to the wrong voices in the vast
Yeah.
web of all the people out there saying stuff at them about their game. So, I mean, if nothing else, like I said, maybe they can learn from it.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, it sounds like they've
I
already
think
learned
they
something.
definitely,
If it's the
yeah.
same people, it might not be the same actual people. I mean, just because it's Warner
No,
Brothers
I
doesn't mean it's the
I know
same
it's
group.
Warner Brothers Interactive, and the developers on this one is Player First Games. So the other one's Rocksteady.
Yeah.
Or yeah. And see,
So you just sing the praises of
Rocksteady,
Rocksteady.
yes, the Arkham series, amazing. Best
Hmm.
Batman games ever. And when they started talking about Suicide Squad, of course, people are like, "Hell yes!" The prodigal child has come home. We're gonna get another good game. And then the first thing they told us about Suicide Squad, well, this will not be like your Arkham games. What? That's what you're known for. Why would you? If you have, it's kind of like crack. If you have a good recipe and people are hooked, don't change your recipe, man. Keep peddling that shit because people are still going to come and get it.
We do not
So,
condone the use or
right?
manufacture of illegal substances on this podcast.
That was my Walter White coming out. But you know what I mean. If you've got the chemistry and the recipe going, don't mess it up. Give the people what they want. And that's what we wanted was
What?
another Arkham game or an Arkham type game. And then they were like, "Oh no, we're going to make this open world and live." And it's like, "What?" Which cool concept. They're trying to keep up with Grand Theft Auto. Totally understand you got to keep running with the big dogs to stay. But they've never done it before. They didn't listen to people, and it was a horrible launch. And now they're running out of content. So, or I shouldn't say they're running out of content. They're just not putting it out quick enough. And the stuff that they're putting out is buggy and quirky. So, go back to your Arkham game.
That doesn't sound so good.
Which honestly, with the base dropping off, the user base dropping off, that's what a lot of people have done. So what good is an open world if no one wants to be in it?
Hmm.
So, yeah. Hopefully, this is not an open world game, though. But I like the cast that this game has because you're going to capture your younger audience and your older audience, too. So, right out of the gate, they're checking boxes.
Cool.
So, Fingers crossed. We'll see end of May how it does,
Mm-hmm. And by end of May, she means the same day that this episode drops. But anyway.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I forget that we're that
She's had an
close to the
interesting
end of the
week.
month.
She's lost track of time. It's all good.
I have.
Does anybody really know what time it is?
Does anybody
Right.
really care?
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
Yeah.
I guess it's my turn, and mine's video game related as well.
Cool.
There is speculation based off of this particular actor started following Dead by Daylight's Twitter account, or I'm sorry, Instagram account, and that earlier this year, Skybound Games started following Dead by Daylight's Twitter account. And this person they're talking about maybe added is Norman Reedus.
Mm.
Now the question is whether it's going to be Norman Reedus or is it going to be Daryl Dixon from The Walking Dead.
When you said Skybound, that's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's Kirkman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I bet
So.
it is Daryl.
Yeah, I can
Because
see
he's
him be
doing
Daryl.
that new series too.
Mhm.
Like, what is it? The Daryl and Carol story or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we may have Daryl being added to Dead by Daylight.
Interesting.
The only reason why they're bringing up Norman Reedus is the fact that they added Nick Cage last year. So there's that possibility. But the fact that, like Mike said, that Skybound was following them too, that it seems like a more logical fit for it to be Daryl Dixon. But hey, whatever.
Yeah.
Either way, it's going to be cool. And man, this game has been going on for years, and it's still going. I hadn't followed it in a long time. I used to be a big fan. Used to watch it all the time. When I saw this story, I started kind of looking things up about it, and I did not realize it, but they've added Chucky and Tiffany.
Neat.
And there have been discussions for a long time about whether or not they should be added because they're small dolls. So the fact that it's going to be really hard to see them in certain locations and all that could be a hindrance not on both sides. But apparently, they went ahead and bit the bullet and added them to the game. So I'm gonna have to pull up Twitch and the Dead by Daylight category and see if I could see them, because there was a little bit of videos of some of the stuff, some of them, but not really actual them going through the game and all that. So I kind of like to see how that works.
See it live and in action. Sure.
See actual gameplay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But this is kind of cool.
Yep.
And congrats to them to be around this long and still adding new content, which obviously the players still are digging. Otherwise, they wouldn't be around.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yep. Good for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty cool.
Yep. All right. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week?
Nope, not me.
No.
Not here.
Okay. We'll go on to our regular shout-outs. Want to thank Pop Goes the Culture for allowing us to be part of a great podcast network. We suggest that you check them out. There will be a link in the show notes. We also want you to check out the fine men and women who've been so kind enough to spread the word of the fellowship on Twitter/X by retweeting or reposting our links. The best way to check them out is to do a search, #PotterandFamily, all one word. Scroll through whatever catches your attention. click on that link and download the episode. We hope you have a great time listening to them. I also want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. In our show notes, there will be a link where you can check out some of their other music. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We value your feedback. Any questions, comments, suggestions, complaints, observations, what have you, please send them our way. Email is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or go to the website, go to the About Us page. There is a contact form you can fill out. On the home page, we have a link where you can join our Discord. We've had a Discord going for a couple of years now, 3, 4 now, something like that. We usually post a lot of news items, stuff for discussion, stuff to laugh at, videos, whether it's music or something to laugh at or what have you. We usually do some activities on there, like a movie night or something like that. So sign up for Discord's free. The app is free on all the app stores. Come join us today if you'd like to hang out with us. Social media-wise, we are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. We're on Instagram and Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. If you'd like to follow our first personal Twitter/X accounts, Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at LN_Geek. Les may or may not be found at Fake Les Webster. And I can be found at Tom TC Geek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you'd be so kind as to rate and review the show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate the support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,